Thank you. Good afternoon, molweni kwakhona. Yes, we are almost there. And does anyone know what the next section is? Love it. So I'm not going to say much. I am going to hand over to Ukala, who's going to facilitate this session. Kala will introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. Ladies, gentlemen, and our non-binary friends. I must learn that last night. Thank you. It is wonderful and it is an honor, really, to be able to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Nadine Muller, who also just goes by Nadine at the same time, with her permission. It's okay just to say Nadine. Joins us today with a very unique perspective. And for some of us who were in the Teacher Choices in Action session with Prof. Razniak or Lee Razniak, year D and year E earlier, we spoke about context, we spoke about schools and how to improve what happens in a lesson or in a school despite its context and being quite relevant. Nadine comes to us with a bit more of a grounded approach in contexts that are not the fancy or not the usual ones, but rather how do we make progress in education using the techniques, using the mindsets and the approaches that Nadine and her organization has done. She did ask, though, that I don't read out a bio. So, without any further introduction, and of course on the menu, on the program that you've got, about the details of today's session, yeah, maybe just a little bit, eh? Nadine will come up here and sit with us for the next 50 minutes, and her presentation is queued, I believe, and ready. And there will be a time for questions and answers at the end. So Siwa had said I'm facilitating, but it's more of Nadine to share her work and the incredible stuff that they're doing, and I will hold the question and answers at the end. In the meantime, write it down. You have a pen and notepad, or it's 2022, use your phones, but just make sure that you've got something at the end if you're curious about it or if you want to hear more from Nadine. We are very privileged, folks, for the quality of speakers we've got. And please make use of that opportunity. Ma'am.
So it's been on the whole time. Okay, is that too loud? Oh gosh, it's like, all right, let's first check the deck. Good, all right. Good afternoon, hi, and welcome to all of you. My name is Nadine Muller. I got a little lecture coming from lunch from two of your colleagues. I missed their names, Iviwe and another young lady who said, don't deny your status as a doctor. So I will go home and think a bit more about that. But for today, I still prefer to be called Nadine. But if you go Dr. Muller, that's also fine. No biggie. I'm here to chat with you and just enjoy your energy, quite honestly. So thank you very much to Carla and Antja, who were instrumental in having me spend some time with you. I'm hoping what I'm going to share is going to be helpful, will, at the very least, just make you think. I'm not here necessarily to inspire or motivate you. I just really want to make you think about the promise you've made to this profession. My bio, I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm an educational psychologist, and I'm a carer. I mentor and coach young people, old people. I my passion is for teaching in different spaces. I find myself in schools, in other organizations, and I do what I do because I love it. And I'm hoping that all of you will feel the same soon. I work for an organization called Pearson Marang Education Trust. We're in the process of being sold, so I think Pearson will drop off at some point. But I'm going to talk from that base, the work that we do in the trust, share with you what we do, how we do it, and what we've learned. And yesterday someone said to me, so what are you going to tell them? I said, well, I'm just going to tell them what we've learned, and I'm hoping they'll learn from what we've learned. And then you take it from there. Like they say, the ball's then in your court. The title I chose is From Hope to Action, but you'll see on your menu/program that the title says Reading and Learning in South Africa. So I'm not going to, it won't be a huge disappointment, and this isn't an apology. It's what happens in translation, in conversation. It wasn't an error because a lot of our work is about reading and promoting reading in schools. So I will talk about it, but I'm not only going to be talking about reading and learning. So for those of you who are just here to hear about how to make young people read and read well and promote English in the school, maybe this isn't really going to be your cup of tea, but yeah, we'll wing it anyway. Okay. I want to start by sharing with you why I chose the title From Hope to Action. I really see you as both the hope and the action. The fact that you chose to be teachers is a hopeful thing in itself. Lots of people I know, some of you may know me from long ago. I used to teach at UWC many years ago. Your moms and dads may have been taught by me, for that matter. Yeah, there were lots of students under my wing who chose teaching because they got a Funza Lushaka bursary and they just couldn't do anything else. Or they didn't get in for anything else, and so, yeah, well, okay, teaching's the way to go because there we go. But you chose this, and so therefore, in my mind, you're hope. But I'm here to challenge you to also be the actors, to move from the hope and to actually be the implementers. One of our biggest challenges in our organization is that we teach people a lot, we share lots of ideas, and we give them loads of advice and guidance. Our biggest challenge is to see teachers, principals, and deputy principals and HODs actually put into practice what we share with them. So implementation is the name of the game, and that's probably what I'm going to say a fair amount about. There we go. So where do we work? Well, you can see this in other spaces, so I don't have to, it's fine. So we work primarily in rural areas, but we also have some township schools. The reality that I want to share with you is that we work in spaces that are beautiful and peaceful, but are seriously challenged. So it may sound like a bit of an irony, but when I am asked to travel, I love it. When my colleagues go into their schools, they love it, because when you're a city girl and you can go into an area where it's green and lush and quiet, it's pretty amazing. But you go into green and lush and beauty, and then you step into a school where there is no toilet or there is no water, and you can't flush, and you carry wet wipes wherever you go, and so on and so forth. So it's beautiful, yes, but going to school is not an easy thing. So those are the roads we drive when we go. So some of you in the room may look at this and say, yeah, we know that. Tough stuff. That's me in that picture over there. I actually had to get out of the car because I didn't know what the hell to do when I got there. And my colleague says, oh, I can do this. We do this all the time. So those are the kinds of roads we travel: long, far, arduous, challenging, difficult, but there they are. The schools we work in are simple spaces. They're not posh. They're not fancy. There are no rugby fields, there are no hockey fields, there's no green grass. I've never been to a school, in none of our schools. We have 85 of them across the country in 6 different provinces. None of them have green grass. None of them. They rely on water tanks and the delivery of water to the school. Schools close. In Gauteng, schools close because there's no water on the day. So we're not just talking about deep rural. We also work in Gauteng, where we've got schools that are based mostly in township areas, but in the Gauteng East District, for those of you who know it. But school is simple, and the pic, for those of you who can see the bottom left, school may be simple, but school is also the place of oasis or haven for many children. It's the one place where they get a meal. It's the one place they go to, yes, to learn, but actually mostly to eat. And that's the reality. So the challenge for me is to say to teachers, don't be cross with them because they're not doing their homework, because actually the last time they ate was at 2 o'clock before they left school. And so now they're back here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you want to drill mental maths. Yeah, right, let's all do our 3 times tables. But this is a child who hasn't eaten since yesterday at 2. So let's take care not to take anything for granted is essentially what my argument is. However harsh things may be, happiness is the name of the game. And what you see in the picture is a very tough, not a very pretty school building. But what you do see are children who are happy to be there. Probably a lot of them are posing for the pic, so there's like, it's lekker just to be there. But the reality for me is that I've often been in schools where it doesn't look very pretty, it doesn't look very nice, but I know that the children want to be there. And my challenge to you is to say, you need to make sure that as much as you want children to learn in your classrooms, you need to make sure that your job is about bringing happiness into the lives of young people. To make joy exist as much as reading and maths and natural science and EMS and the whole bang lot of caps. Make that happen, but make them smile and make them want to love to learn. That's the challenge that I put to you. So who is PMET and who do we work with? We work primarily with SMTs and teachers, and also with district officials. So the district officials are essentially our partners. We have to ask them permission to go and work in their school. So it's a relationship of comfort, ease. We do it because we have to do it. We wish we had more power to influence what happens in district and provincial education offices, but quite honestly, we don't. So what we do is we take what we can and have power and not authority, but we try to impact at the level of the school. So we work very closely with SMTs, principals, HODs, and deputies in school management teams, and with teachers. That's our daily contact. So I have 12 colleagues who are based in 6 different districts across 6 different provinces. They each take care of between 10 and 20 schools. And Mondays to Thursdays, they get up in the morning, they drive in their cars, and they go to a school, and they spend the day at the school. So it's a little bit, I was saying to Carla earlier, a little bit like the kind of work that that Jade and Rudy are doing with the newly qualified teachers, with your first-year teachers. So they spend a day in the school, and they mentor teachers, they support them, they run workshops with teachers. The graphic that you see is essentially telling a story of the way in which our work is intended to be intertwined. So we don't just go in, we don't offer a package deal to schools, we don't have a quick fix. We have 85 schools, and probably 85 of them are doing 85 different things at any one point in time. So we sometimes will run a workshop. Other times we will engage with smaller groups and mentor them, mentor teachers, mentor a group of maths teachers, sometimes work with a group of English teachers, do things differently. And then we go into classrooms and we offer what we call classroom-based support. So we do demo lessons, we team teach, and then we say, right now you need to, and this was the implementation and action I spoke about. We then say to them, now you need to show us what you can do. We've done our bit. We've shared with you, we've guided you, we've impacted on you, right now what? And then they teach. and we watch them in action, and we give them feedback, and we coach them through that, and we tell them what worked and what doesn't work, and we get them to be reflective about the work that they do. And through that, hopefully, they grow and they impact differently in their classrooms. So through our work, so PMET has existed since 2008. I've been working, because we expanded the project from working with 16 schools to, we worked with 112 schools for 4 years, between 2014 and 2018, and we're now working with 85 schools since 2019. So we engaged with a group of schools for about 4 years. And through these many years of interaction and engagement, what I would argue has been the most important understanding of what makes things work in a school, the fundamentals of what schools are about, what school and teacher development is about, is threefold. Curriculum, leadership, and emotional well-being. So when you ask yourself what makes for quality teaching and learning, then that's my argument. My argument is that what needs to go into the funnel is those three. Now, we work with both primary and high schools. I think all of you are based in high schools? Okay. So the argument may be, well, oh yeah, you know, we need these things to happen in primary schools, but what about high schools? My biggest challenge to high schools is that, so here's the interesting reality, is most of you will find that if you work in a high school, the focus often, not always, but often, is on what happens in grade 12. Everybody's wanting to fix what happens in grade 12. We're all running because Angie wants to know, and so on, and so that's what we push for. And we neglect grade 8, 9, and 10 because we figure, we'll catch them up later and something will happen, you know, we'll fix it. But by the time it gets to grade 12, actually, in our opinion, it's too late. So what we argue for is, yes, of course, you must do what you need to do for grade 12, but the argument we have with our high school teachers and SMTs is to say, please invest more energy in the earlier grades. Their argument, no, we can't, we don't do that. So extra classes by the max, it's insane. Children are pulled out of their homes. Kids go and live in rental facilities close to the school so they can get to school by 6 o'clock in the morning. So they don't live with their families, they don't live with someone else somewhere. And then what do you have happening there? You've got young people who are left to their own devices, unprotected. So you can, your mind can race around what on earth actually happens in that year of grade 12 when there's this investment in their academic career. So when we challenge the high schools and they say we'll get to it, what we further challenge them around is, why is it that high schools are so quick to blame primary schools for providing them with less than best quality? So high schools will say to primary schools, you didn't do a good enough job, but then they don't pay any attention to the foundation that they're supposed to be building in the high school. So the logic defeats me completely. So we continue to plug on and try. Sometimes we are more successful than other times, but yeah, my message to you is, if you're in a school, please try to get a post in grade 8, 9, and 10 and make your impact there so that you can prepare. You build the foundation from the bottom up. That's what needs to happen. So that's my challenge to you, is don't be too quick to run to the status of grade 11 and 12, because that's who everyone thinks is like the cool teachers teach the grade 11s and 12s. Yeah. So how do we unpack this a little bit? Lots of young teachers or student teachers will say to me, there's such a lot going on. The context is difficult. The education sector is hard. CAPS is overloaded. There's so much of a workload. Too many assessments that we have to do. My principals are moron or a tyrant. I can't function with my HOD. They don't think straight. So there are loads of reasons why teaching is a challenging space to be in. And my response to that is, and I think COVID taught me this more than anything, is focus on what you have control over. You can't control the moronic principal. You can't control the tyrant of an HOD. You can't change caps. You can't change how many assessments you have to do. You can't change what the district wants by such and such a date when it was actually due last week already. You can't control that, but what you can control are the following 3 areas of the work that you do. 1, emotional well-being. So this is the funnel I was talking about earlier. 3 aspects. My challenge to you is to say, right, so if you're looking at emotional well-being and you're asking what is it that I have control over, one thing that teachers have to take seriously is self-care. So I'm not going to say too much about that because I know that JGF has invested a lot of energy in helping all of you to look after yourselves, to reflect on who you are, to take care, to get into mindfulness stuff, to exercise. I saw the menu. So there's lots of good stuff happening. You're eating well, sleeping well, all of those kinds of things. So I don't want to talk more about that. Although obviously as a psychologist I would want to, but we won't go there. The place that I'm moving to, because with COVID there was a lot of focus on emotional well-being. Let's take heart, let's look after, let's be safe. What I want to put on everyone's agenda is the importance of emotional intelligence, which is different. Emotional intelligence is about your awareness and your management of your own emotions and those of others. So how aware are you of who you are, what you think, how you feel in a moment, and how do you manage that? So it's not enough to say when you see a learner in your classroom, he irritates me every day. He gives me that look and I just want to clap him. But I know I can't because it's illegal and JGF told me not to do that. Corporal punishments against the law. So when you're aware of how you feel and you then are able to manage that, work with it, that's what makes for emotional intelligence. When you're in a staff room and you know that there are teachers who sit in a corner, who whisper with each other and knit whole day and talk about recipes, and you think, why do they do this? Because I can't get into that space because I don't understand them, I don't know who they are. Acknowledge how you're feeling and work with that. So emotional intelligence is something I believe needs to be put on the agenda for all of us as individuals. And the idea is to ask yourself, how is it that I can take control in that space? Let me talk about leadership next, and then I'll come to curriculum, because that's the space that PMET works in most powerfully, I believe. You won't have control over who the SMT is until you become an HOD yourself, or a deputy, or a principal. So until that point, let's put them aside. You can't control who's managing and leading you in your school, but what you can control is the leadership and management of your own classroom and the leadership and management of yourself. So look carefully at things like how you manage your classroom, discipline issues. How do you set ground rules? Who sets the ground rules? What consequences do you put in place and why? Do you negotiate this with your learners, or do you leave them to their own devices? When you look at your classroom, are you set up like this, cinema style? Or do you allow for group work? When learners walk into your classroom, what's the culture of your classroom? What's the environment that you create? What do the walls in your classroom look like? What does the furniture look like? And if you don't have control over the furniture, what do you do with the furniture to make it work for you in the space that you're in? How do you manage yourself? Do you have a teacher file? Do you have a profile? Do you keep copies of your lesson plans? Where do you keep them? Whether someone's asking you for them or not is not the point. You need to create a system by which you manage your own work so that when you get asked for it, then it's there. But if you never get asked for it, all it means is that you're managing yourself well. And that makes your work so much easier. And it makes it more effective. So that's the way to think about management is around how do I manage myself. Around the curriculum. PMET preaches what we call a move from 100% to 75-25. So it's a cryptic code that we use. Once teachers work with us long enough, they understand it. The code works like this. Before you enter a classroom, you must have done 100% preparation on your own. I'm responsible. I do all of it. At home, in the library, wherever. When you walk into the classroom, the ratio changes. I do 25% and the learners do 75% of the work. So it's not about the work, it's about the action or the activity. If you find yourself standing and talking for 100% of the time in your 45-minute lesson, you are doing it wrong. I don't care what Jade or Rudy has told you. I'm saying you're doing it wrong. Classrooms need to be learner centers. Learners need to be feeling like they're learning. Not my teacher is teaching. So learning must be the essence of the time that they spend there. So you can only do that if you put in 100% preparation. So you can't walk into the classroom thinking, I'm going to wing it today. Yeah, Pythagoras theorem, let's see what happens. And then you say to the learners, okay, it's your guys' turn. And what? So if you haven't done 100% preparation, then 75% is not going to happen automatically from their side. That's why, and this is long history, you would have learned this somewhere in some education module, that's why outcomes-based education failed. Because teachers made an assumption that they didn't have to prep, they only needed to facilitate learning. I must walk in the room and be present, and learners will magically just learn on their own. That's a load of hogwash. Learners need you. So yes, happy days for online learning. I'm not a fan, forgive me. I believe in the power of face-to-face. I believe in the power of the teacher in the room. I believe in the power of a teacher leaning over a learner and saying, how can I work with you? How can I help you? It doesn't happen in the same way with Zoom. It's just not the same thing. But having said that, you have to know your content. So be a content specialist. There's no excuse to say, I didn't learn it in my B.Ed, or I had a useless maths lecturer, or, you know, the English department doesn't teach English teachers the way they're supposed to teach English teachers. They teach us this fluffy, I don't know, literature, Shakespeare. No, not Shakespeare doesn't count because that's still in the CAPS curriculum. Don't allow your lack of content knowledge to be an excuse. Make it a project and make sure that you're an expert. And when learners ask you questions and you don't have the answers, say, I don't know, but go home that night and go and find out so that you can tell them the next day. Or tell them to go and find out and say, I'll do some homework, you do some homework, tomorrow we talk to each other. So knowing the content of your subject is crucial. To stand in front of the room, and you probably have all at some point been taught by a teacher who didn't know their stuff. It's not a lekker space to be in because you lose trust, you feel betrayed, and you don't want to be on the other side of that. So content specialization is crucial. And here's the reading bit. The trust argues the following. We push for something called reading-centered learning and teaching, which means that reading must happen in every lesson, in every subject, in every classroom, every hour, every day in the school. So irrespective of whether you're a language teacher or a content subject teacher, the argument that PMET has is learners must read. If they are in a mother tongue classroom, they will read in Xhosa, in Zulu, in Sepedi, it's fine, that's it. If they are in a maths classroom and they're learning in English, they must read, even if it means they're just reading the instructions out of the textbook. If they're reading something off the chalkboard, whiteboard, smartboard. Learners have to be reading, and the way that we promote this is we've designed a four-step approach. The idea is that the teacher reads, so you have to be a reader in the classroom. Teacher reads, learners read. Learners read in groups, learners read as a whole class, learners read silently. So there are multiple opportunities that you create in the classroom to make sure that learners are engaging with text. If they don't read, they are not going to learn effectively. because you, as high school teachers, are prepping them for something beyond this. Whether it's a workspace or a university space or college, they're going to go there, and what do they need to do? They need to read. So you need to help them to develop the ability to read and read with ease. If they don't read in your classroom, it's not going to happen. Finally, I suppose my own pet favorite is the issue of inclusion. I was really chuffed to see there were a handful of people who were talking about the importance of addressing diversity in the classroom, of looking at learners who struggle, experiencing barriers to learning. They will be in your classroom. Every classroom in South Africa is an inclusive classroom. So if you think that you can walk into a classroom and tailor-make a lesson and pitch it at one level, then you are wrong. Every classroom will have, just like this, stronger learners, average learners, learners who are struggling, they're all going to be there, and you cannot assume that I'll pitch it at the average, and the sharp ones will pick it up, good for me, and shame, the struggling ones, maybe they'll catch it, maybe they won't, we'll figure it out. You have to design lessons that differentiate the content and the pedagogy accordingly. The lesson around all of this is, and I'm saying this in defense of universities, you have all had at least one module in your 4 years or in your PGC that talks about inclusion, that talks about curriculum differentiation, that talks about learning barriers. And if you haven't, well, then the university needs a checking. But yeah, because it's in Mr. Tech and it's in everywhere. Don't be too quick to dismiss the theory that you get at university. There is such an unfortunate assumption that whatever we learn at university doesn't matter, and it only matters once you step into the classroom, once you've qualified, and once you're actually living and breathing the air in a classroom. It's really not true. I'm biased because I was a lecturer at a university. I'll put it on the table, fair enough. But my argument is, don't allow the excuse of, I had a poor lecturer, she didn't teach EdPsych well enough, the guy who taught us method of whatever was useless. Don't let that be an excuse. You were given the theory, you were given the notes, you were given readings to do. Go back, look at them, and draw from that to enhance your practice in the classroom. There's a reason we do a degree. We do a degree to learn. And sometimes the learning is not great in the moment. But if you go back, I can guarantee you'll find gems amongst that. So I'm challenging you to not say a goodbye too quickly to what it is that you're learning right now. Your year A, B's, and C's, don't be too quick to dismiss it. Your year D's are now quick to say, we're almost at the end. We don't have to do any of this anymore. I can tell you that there's a module somewhere along the line that you will find helpful going back to. Find it. Look at it. Be inspired by it and take it into your classrooms next year. I know that there's a lot that's done through JGF around encouraging you all to be reflective practitioners. I suppose especially the work that's being done with those of you who are now fellows out in the field. There's a lot of emphasis on reflecting, but Carla was explaining to me how every single one of you has a mentor, a coach, someone who works with you, who encourages you to reflect on your practice as a student, as a teacher. I want to push you one step further. It's one thing to be a reflective practitioner, but there's something deeply powerful about moving that into an evidence-based practice space. So I'm saying to you, be a reflective practitioner, but be an action researcher as well. And the way that you do that is to follow the reflective cycle, fair enough. I watch, I observe, I evaluate, I develop a new way of thinking about something, and I implement it. But I'm saying to you, find a way to gather data, to gather evidence of what it is you're wanting to change. In small ways. So I'm not saying everybody must do a thesis. I'm saying little things. So let's take the example of the staff room. You've been to 6 staff meetings. whether you're on teaching prac or not, or whether you're in a school, formally employed in the school, the question you ask yourself is, when last have I spoken in the staff meeting? And when I did speak, what did I say? Was it meaningful or not? And you track that. Because that will tell you whether you're making a meaningful difference in your school. Not just to be there and be there physically. Let's look at the classroom. Ask yourself, when you think of your classroom, to record who tries, who excels, who struggles, and what am I going to do about that? And 2 weeks down the line, who tries, who struggles, who excels, are those names changing or are those names the same? And then once you see there's a pattern, that's the evidence base you work with, then you start asking yourself, well, what am I going to do with the list of who tries? What am I going to do with the list of who's struggling? And what am I going to do with the list of who's excelling? But then you're working with evidence. You're a researcher in your classroom who's working off evidence and not just a gut feel every now and again. And a lighter example is to track who bugs you. The learners that get under your skin, track that. When, who, what do they say? Because that's going to help you to learn how to manage that differently going forward. So don't just work off reflection. I'm suggesting that what you do is that you actually turn your reflective practice into a research-based practice. That's the idea. On the sports field, who's attempting, who's excelling, what's the team dynamic like, how do I see the shifting, when we win what happens, when we lose what happens, because the sports field is undeniably a space where you will watch young people grow. Don't be too quick to dismiss what happens on the playground and in on the sports field. Classrooms are crucial. I don't deny that for a second, but there's something pretty powerful about what happens on the field. And don't lose that. Don't forget that. I want to leave you to now think. So take a moment. I've said a lot, some of which might have sat comfortably with you, some maybe not. Ask yourself, whatever I've shared, what has this maybe meant for you? What struck you? What are you feeling unsettled by? Questions, comments, reflections, anything at all. I will hand over to Carla to do the runaround, and I'll pick up on your questions as we go along.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Gugu.
I think the sound.
Hello. Hi. Okay, my name is Gugu, and I'm completely in agreement with you when you said that we really should be focusing on I'm a high school teacher, so my foundation would be grade 8. Because you don't want to be having problems later on. So I teach grade 8, 10, 11, and 12. So now I'm actually very worried about my grade 12s because I've experienced some things. They've told me how previous teachers have dealt with things, and I'm completely conflicted with it. But because it's so late, being in grade 12, I've almost wanted to just, let me just do that, just to get them out. But I don't really know, but I can't bring myself to do it. And this is the term where they're about to write prelims, and I guess I'm asking for advice, and yeah.
I hear you. Shall we take 2 or 3 and then I'll pick them up?
Two there and one over here, and then I think I can reset after that.
Hi. I wanted to ask about how you institutionalize a very good culture of good practice in schools, because you can have some of the most interesting people arrive at schools all the time, saying very interesting stuff, giving in very important tools, but not many people in schools would be, in the long term, invested in creating that culture of excellence. So what can me, the 2,000 in the staff room to make that possible.
Hello. Okay. Hi. So I realized that a lot of the problems, a lot of the excuses that people give for not wanting to break the cycle is it's inconvenience. So, for example, if you want to break the cycle of them paying more attention to grade 12 students, maybe you'd start at the beginning with the grade 8s, but that leaves the next generation of grade 12s with nothing. That leaves the grade 10s, 11s with nothing, with less advantage than the new grade 8. So how would you suggest sort of breaking the cycle in a way that benefits everybody? Would you give tutoring to everybody and then start from scratch, or, yeah?
Last question, and then ma'am can respond, and then we'll close up. Thank you.
Hi. I think, firstly, the first thing that I need to say is you get a lot of teachers who have been teaching for the longest time saying, oh man, I hate the grade 8s. And I don't get it yet. So I just say, okay, yeah, go with the flow. But I question what is really the problem. But my point is, as new teachers, and I teach history, and it's such a content-heavy subject that constantly needs us to question, constantly needs you as a teacher to try by all means to be informed with what is correct history, looking at what South Africa, looking at the past in South Africa. And as a new teacher coming into the space, the question becomes, how do I then ensure that I am catching up on that 100%? Because it seems like a milestone. It seems like it's a hurdle, because you're in the beginning and sometimes you get your colleagues talking about all of these historical things, and I'm like, what is that? Now I need to go back and do the research. So what is the best way as a new teacher going into the field to try and meet up to that 100% so that you're prepared enough for your students?
Okay, let me take the four. And I apologize for probably talking for too long. I would have really wanted more engagement. But anyway, I'll be around so we can chat informally as well. Gugu, the crisis management issue. Grade 12 feels like that. So for me, what you're raising is, how do we act at grade 12 and not leave them be to their own devices? So the argument I would put forward is there's a need for crisis management for the grade 12. So we don't leave them be and say, well, oh, sorry, you didn't get it earlier. So what you're doing is absolutely the right thing to do. Give them what they need to get through. Because if you dump them, they're not going to. At the same time, what you're asking for is systems level change, which talks to the third question that was asked, which is, we've got grade 8s, 9s, 10s, and 11s, and so what are we wanting to do? And the idea is not to say, let's move the energy from grade 12 to grade 8, because then you're asking, well, what are we doing with grade 10s, 11s, and 12, the grade 9s, 10s, and 11s in between? My response to the two questions is that there needs to be an invested agreement in the school as a whole that actually every grade matters. Because that's what it is. There's a build-up. It's like universities. You go through first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. And similarly, I don't understand why we don't treat school in the same way. That we don't see that actually there's value and importance in grade 8 and 9 and 10 and 11. So it's not about pausing and saying, let's fix it and invest energy here and do this over here. The idea would be to say, every teacher should be teaching every grade and every subject to the best of their ability. That's what we should be looking for. That brings me to the question around institutionalizing it. Because what the two of you are raising is the issue around systems level change. It's some of the stuff that you don't have control over. So fortunately, you're teaching grade 8s, 9s, 8, 10, 11, 12. So you can do that kind of input with the little ones, and then you make sure that you keep things going with the others as well. When you don't teach in all the grades, it becomes a lot more challenging. But my argument is that actually you have to be finding ways for the school management team to take hold. So that's part of the reason why in PMET's work we focus a lot on looking at the leadership and management of schools. And it's my encouragement to all of you to not just stick with teaching, but really to find a way to find yourself into spaces where you are able to lead and manage aspects of the school. I'm not saying all of you must become principals. Not everybody can and not everybody wants to. But there is definitely an extremely powerful role to be played by people who are holding positions of management in the school. So that's my challenge to you, is to say don't leave it be at post-level 1. Find a way to keep a foot on the ground, but also to be finding a way to lead and manage the school as a whole. What do I do in the meanwhile when I'm not an HOD or not a deputy or not a principal just yet? We've been finding in our work post-level 1 teachers, young teachers who have embraced what we do in an unbelievably amazing way. And I think lots of districts do this, but in our organization, what we're pushing for is to identify what we call lead teachers. Now, I'm saying to you, don't wait for someone to identify you as a lead teacher. Make yourself a lead teacher. Do what you do it well, and then find humble, quiet, gentle ways to share what you do and do well. You don't have to be the boss in the staff room. You don't have to be a braggart. You don't have to be a show-off. But you can quietly plant little seeds to say, is anyone wanting, you've got QMS happening all the time. Anyone want to come and watch me teach and do a little evaluation? You know, the principal's coming next week. Maybe 2 of you can come and give me some feedback now. They watch you teach, they learn from you. So allow your magic to spread in ways where you can embrace humility, but also share and share in a powerful way. It sounds egocentric, but you know if you're a good teacher. You know it. You don't have to be braggish about it. It doesn't have to be sounding like an egocentric, egotistical rah-rah. But in your heart of hearts, you know if you're good at what you do. And then I'm saying to you, don't keep it to yourself. Then you have a responsibility to share it with your colleagues. But think carefully about how you do that. Just be careful. So I'm hoping I've answered the question about grade 8, 9, and 10, and 11. The idea is invest the energy, find ways to invest the energy across the board in all of the grades. Don't make them a special project. The grade 8s are tough. I often hear grade 9s are tough. But it is about, the reality is there's a lot of developmental stuff going on. The grade 8s are coming in, they've just been the head honchos in primary school, so they think they're smarter than they are, and so they want to like show their stuff, and then they're feeling bad because now they're the babies in the school. So there's a lot of psychological stuff that's going on developmentally. The grade 9s have moved from being the babies in the school, so now they think they're so quiet, and so now they're going to show everybody how they really are like the bee's knees, and so that's what they're doing. For those of you who paid attention in developmental psychology, it is the job of adolescents to challenge authority. It's not something we want to hear as teachers, but you were all teenagers at some point. That's the truth of it. They take it on. They do their job to the max, and they will get under your skin, and that's where the emotional intelligence comes in. And that's where the emotional well-being comes in. Because sometimes there's a learner who's just wanting to be difficult, problematic, irritating, check himself out and that kind of thing. Other times there's someone who's getting under your skin because there's something deeper going on. You have to find a way to find that out. So sometimes the youngster who's being a pain in the back of the class, talking to his friend, not doing his homework, is doing that because he's being a typical adolescent. Other times, they're doing that because he's hurt, he's been attacked. He came to school this morning after he had to take his granny to the clinic, came late because he had to push her in the wheelchair, couldn't get there in time, took the taxi, got here, walked in. You say, why are you late? And he says, yeah, just. Because why? He doesn't want to feel vulnerable and say, I had to take my granny to the clinic. Please understand, sir, I'm so sorry, I really would have come. It's easier for him to say, oh, just. So what do you think? I've got attitude. Go to the principal. But you don't realize what lies beneath this. So take the time to find the story. Take the time to find the story and work with that. I think we'll end there.
Is this working? Okay. Dr. Muller, I am very appreciative of this talk that you had with us. I'm very appreciative of how you taught us about making contextualized interventions in emotional well-being, in leadership and in curriculum. And I'm so grateful for the way that you taught us that making these pragmatic implementations relies on a capacity for hope and empathy. And I think that's helping us really learn more about the inner workings of innovation, which is one of the principles we're exploring in this summit. So yeah, on behalf of the candidate fellows and the JGF team, we want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I really just want to say a huge thank you to all of you. Thanks to JGF for inviting me to be here. And I must mention this, my very last slide has a beautiful picture of the team that I work with, but I didn't get to shush it on the screen. Too sweet, man. There we go. There we go. So yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you because I messaged them and said I'm going to be here, and they sent all these cute, all these like gifts of dancing ladies swinging their bums around and all of that. And my words to the team was, I can only share with you because of what they share with me. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Nadine. Yeah, you're almost there. Quickly. I'm not even going to ask Tubani ready. So the next session is Vision 2030. Those who are doing their mini speeches know, and the groups and names have been sent to the WhatsApp group. So breakaway room 1 is group 1, 2, group 2, 3, group 3, 4 is remaining here. But before we do that, we know that from the Vision 2030, we're all getting glammed up for the fireworks. So this is how this is going to work. From Vision 2030, if you have to sprint to your room, do that. Sprint to your room, but by 6 o'clock, you should be seated at the fireworks venue. It's going to be nice, look fabulous. We have photographers, we have a blue carpet. I haven't been there, I had. So just that. We're having dinner at the fireworks, so there won't be dinner at the side, right? If you are on high heels, we're not having dinner at this side, the dinner is at the fireworks event. You will get the instructions on the group. And here is who want to help us because they know where it is. Terminal B, Ngzwili. So if you're on high heels, because it's quite a distance, if you're on high heels, you dial number 9 on your telephone there by your room and ask for a golf cart. It's going to take you to Terminal B. Yes. Soft life, yes. The other thing is, as much as we're pressed with time, I like nice things. Yesterday, I was walking across this stage saying that I'm disappointed, but hey, you did the things. And I'm happy. Thank you so much. Siyatrenda. Is this how you clap for yourselves? Wonderful. And from our marketing team, social media, I have a quick announcement. So we have 2 people that have been active, and I have little somethings for them. And I'm going to announce them after I make another announcement. We have 150 Rand Take a Lop voucher up for grabs for the most engaged post today. That's going to be announced tomorrow. We have 200 Rands Take a Lot voucher for the most engaged post across the social media platforms at the fireworks event. That's going to be announced again tomorrow. So, I was asked to say thank you and keep it up to Ufredi for tweeting us, making us trend. All time. And I was asked to present this to Mugisha for making us trend on Instagram. Well done, keep it up. Yes, I love the energy. You see the same energy? It's when you're moving to your groups. Keep it up. Take the same energy, move to the group, and we need to start. Bye-bye. I will see you at the fireworks. Have fun.